Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you, big deal for me. My name's Frank Holloway. I'm 58 years old, and I've spent most of my life crawling through crawl spaces, fixing pipes, and breathing in more dust than air. I'm a plumber out of Wichita, Kansas, third generation. My old man used to say, "We don't make folks rich, son. We just keep their basements dry." Divorced 8 years now. 2 grown kids, one of them talks to me sometimes. I rent a small place behind an auto shop. It smells like oil in the summer and loneliness in the winter, but it's mine. I wasn't chasing luck that day. It was a Friday, middle of August, heat thick enough to make the pavement shine. I just finished unclogging a grease trap behind a diner off Highway 54, one of those jobs that makes you question every decision you ever made. My back was killing me, my shirt glued to my skin. I stopped at a dusty convenience store on the edge of town. Just wanted a cold drink, that's all. While I waited in line, I noticed this display of scratch tickets near the counter, shiny ones with gold trim and a picture of fireworks. I had exactly $15 left in my wallet, enough for gas to get home. But the clerk, this kid with a buzz cut, grinned and said, "You look like you could use a little luck, old-timer." I don't know why I did it. Maybe because everything else in life had been stuck on repeat. So I handed him $10 and kept 5 for gas. Walked outside, leaned against my truck, and scratched that card with the corner of my key. First number matched, then the second. By the time I hit the third, my hands were trembling. The letters lined up clear as daylight. Win $1,000 cash payout. I stood there in disbelief, staring at that little rectangle like it might vanish if I blinked. The heat shimmered off the asphalt, and I swear I could hear my heartbeat louder than the traffic. I drove straight home, ticket pressed between my fingers like it was made of glass. I must have read those numbers 100 times. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat at the kitchen table under that flickering bulb, thinking about what life could finally feel like if I didn't have to count pennies anymore. Next morning, I drove to Topeka, signed the claim papers, and by Monday afternoon, there was a check with my name on it, after taxes, just shy of 600 grand. For a man who'd spent his life tightening bolts and begging clients to pay invoices on time, that number didn't even feel real. I didn't tell anyone. Not my kids, not my ex, not even my landlord. The only one who knew was Ray, my best friend since high school. The kind of guy who still fixed his own truck and never asked for anything except company at the bar. He came over that night with a bottle of whiskey and 2 plastic cups. We didn't toast or cheer. We just sat there, quiet, sipping, both of us smiling like fools. Ray said, "You finally caught a break, brother. Don't go letting the wrong people ruin it." I promised him I wouldn't. I wish I'd kept that promise. Ray was right about the wrong people. Trouble didn't knock like a stranger. It let itself in like it owned the place. 2 days after I cashed the check, a woman at the state office smiled too long at my paperwork. Didn't think much of it until a kid at the tire shop asked if I was the guy with the lucky card. Small towns don't need newspapers. They've got coffee counters and Facebook. By Friday, folks were looking at me the way people stare at a storm on the horizon, half awe, half calculation. The clerk at the diner said, "Heard you're retiring, Frank." I said, "Heard I'm turning purple next week. News to me." He laughed, but his eyes were busy counting what I might be worth. My plan was simple. Keep working, keep quiet, move the money where it couldn't be nibbled on. I sat with a banker who talked a mile a minute about vehicles and diversification. I nodded through half of it. When I asked, "Can someone just take it?" he grinned and said, "Not unless they're on your account." Good. I wanted a vault, not a billboard. Ray told me to get a separate phone for anything money-related. I did. A cheap flip phone that rang exactly 0 times, until it didn't. The first call came from a number I hadn't seen in a decade. "Frankie," a voice boomed, too cheerful, like a game show host with a hangover. "Kyle here, your favorite former brother-in-law." I stared at the screen. Kyle, Linda's younger brother. The kind of man who borrows a truck and forgets where he parked it. I hadn't heard from him since the divorce papers were still damp. "How'd you get this number?" I asked. "Oh, come on, don't be like that. I stopped by your old place. Guy at the shop said you were looking into new accounts. Word travels, huh?" He chuckled. Hey, big congrats, man. Really proud of you. Proud? I said. For what? Scratching cardboard? Don't sell yourself short. You've always been due a blessing. He drew out the last word like he was offering me a seat in the front pew. Listen, we should talk. Family to family. We're not family, Kyle. Grandpa used to say divorce doesn't break blood, he answered, like he had a grandfather and a proverb on speed dial. Look, I'm putting something together. Real estate rentals, high yield, community focused. Would love to bring you in as a silent partner. I do all the work. You collect. How much is silent supposed to cost me? Nothing crazy, he said, pretending to think. 150 to start. Seed money. The rest will take care of itself. I let the quiet stretch. I could hear a TV in the background. Sports channel, somebody shouting about a trade. He rushed in to fill the space. Think about your legacy, Frank. You could set things up for your kids and... I'll set up my kids, I said. I don't need a middleman. His smile fell clean off his voice. Buddy, don't be ungrateful. You know how many dinners Linda's folks covered when you were between jobs? I looked at the grease under my nails. I covered their broken pipes at midnight. Call it even. He laughed once, hard. You're making a mistake. Then the line clicked dead. I figured that was the end of it. I figured wrong. The next morning, my daughter called. Sarah isn't dramatic, never has been. But her hello was tight as a knuckle. Dad, Aunt Linda called me. Linda's not your aunt, I said. Old habits die harder than marriages. What did she want? She said you hit it big. A long inhale. She also said you told Kyle you wouldn't help the family, and that maybe you need reminding who was there for you. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the little black burn mark in the laminate where a cigarette had rested too long 20 years ago. Did they ask you to ask me for money? She didn't answer right away. They said maybe I should talk to you, get closer. Make sure you think about us. Us? I said softly. Or them. Her voice shrank. Dad, I don't want your money. This is weird. I felt like I needed to call you first. You did the right thing, I said. This isn't on you. She blew out a shaky breath, laughed without humor. Mom said if I'm not willing to be a bridge, then maybe I'm not ready to be part of a grown-up family. I felt something hot rise behind my eyes, and it wasn't anger yet. Sarah, listen to me. You're my daughter. You don't need to prove that to anyone. If you want to be here, be here. If you don't, don't. No transactions. I know, she whispered. I just wanted to hear you say it. After we hung up, I sat there until the sun slid across the floor and the fly on the window gave up trying to headbutt through glass. I was 58 years old, finally able to breathe without counting pennies, and somehow it felt like the air got thinner. By afternoon, my voicemail was a mood swing. Linda offering concerned, syrupy advice. Kyle pitching one last chance. Linda's mother, Margot, speaking in a hush like she was breaking bad news to a church circle. We just want what's best, Frankie. Don't isolate yourself. I didn't feel isolated. I felt surrounded. Ray came by at sunset with a bag of burgers. He set them on the workbench in the garage and looked at me the way men who've seen the same wars look at each other. How bad is it? Bad enough, I said. You need locks, he said. I got locks. You need better ones. And a camera. I'll bring one by tomorrow. You think they'd try something? Ray looked at the burgers, unwrapped one, and took a bite, chewing like he needed the time to pick his words. I think people who've decided your piece is their paycheck don't mind skipping steps. We ate standing up, grease dripping into paper. I told him about Sarah. He nodded. Good kid. She'll find her feet. What about Michael? I asked. Ray shrugged. You gonna call him? I was hoping to hear from him first. Ray gave me a look that said hope is a nice hobby. Call him. I tried that night. It went to voicemail. I kept it simple. Hey, son, I'd love to take you to breakfast this week. Nothing big, just your old man and some pancakes. I hung up before I could say anything I'd regret. Sunday morning was quiet enough to pass for normal. Church bells, someone mowing too early. I brewed coffee and opened the back door to let the heat argue with the air conditioning. That's when I noticed the tire tracks in the dust behind the shop. Not mine. Too fresh. I stepped outside, mug in hand, and there they were at the end of the gravel. 3 figures, standing like they'd been placed there by a stagehand. Linda in a pale blouse, Margot clutching her purse like it held instructions from God, and Kyle with his thumbs hooked in his belt loops, trying to look casual and landing on cocky. "Morning, Frankie," Margot called. "We brought muffins." She lifted a plastic container like a trophy. I didn't move. The gate's on the other side of the lot. Kyle grinned. "We figured we're family. Family uses the back door." "We aren't family," I said, "and the back door is locked." Linda took a step forward. "Can we talk, Frank? 5 minutes, that's all." "Not on my gravel," I said. "Say it from there." She swallowed. "All right. I heard you've had some good news. I'm happy for you." "I doubt that." Her jaw tightened. Margot swooped in. "We don't want a dime you can't spare. We just want to make sure you're not making rash decisions." Kyle nodded like he'd been elected spokesman. "There are smart plays here, man. We can help. I've got a partner." "You don't have a partner," I said. "You have an idea and a habit." His face flashed. "You always did think you were better than us, huh?" "No," I said, calm as a graveyard. "I thought I was poorer than you. Turns out I was just quieter." Linda put a hand on Kyle's arm. "Frank, you and we were a team once." "We were a mortgage," I said, "and a budget, and a long string of Wednesdays where we were both too tired to argue." She flinched like I'd thrown something. "If you can't help Kyle," she said, voice steadying into something practiced, "at least think about your children, about what message you're sending." Margot nodded, eyes damp. "There are birthdays coming, weddings someday. You'll want to walk in with your head high." "My head's plenty high," I said. "It's my door you're standing behind." Kyle took 2 steps forward, testing me. "We won't be shut out, Frank, not after everything." "After what?" I asked, finally letting steel into my tone. "After me pulling your water heater at 2 a.m.? After fixing your car in a snowstorm because the shop was closed? After paying half the rent when Linda's check got lost in the mail?" Silence, the kind that grows teeth. I opened my palm. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to stop calling my daughter. You're going to pretend you never learned my new number. If you need advice, call a pastor. If you need money, call a bank." Kyle smirked. "Or what?" "Or I'll make a record," I said. "That's all. Paper, names, dates, grown-up stuff." Margot's voice cracked. "This isn't you, Frankie. This is finally me," I said. They didn't move. 3 rooted plants pretending they were a forest. I set my coffee on the step, pulled out my phone, and started taking pictures. Their faces, their car, the tire tracks. Kyle threw his hands up like a referee had made a bad call. "Fine," he snapped. "We tried. When this goes south, don't come crying to us." "It already went south," I said. "You just missed the funeral." They left with more dust than dignity. I watched the cloud settle, then walked the perimeter of the lot like a man checking fence posts before a storm. My heart hurt in a way that wasn't entirely physical. I went inside, locked the deadbolt, and sat down with my coffee gone cold. By noon, the calls started again, new numbers this time. A cousin who hadn't liked me since I refused to lend him tools. A neighbor who suddenly wondered if I needed management. I stopped answering. Ray mounted a camera above the back door that afternoon and showed me on his phone how I could watch the feed. "They won't quit," he said. "Not until you make it boring to try." That night, Sarah texted, "I told Mom to stop. She said I don't understand loyalty. I'm staying out of it. Love you." I stared at the words until they blurred, then typed back, "Love you, proud of you, always a seat here." I didn't hit send for a minute. When I did, the phone felt lighter. On Monday, I went to work like normal, crawled under a tiny house to find a leak that sounded like a whisper behind drywall. The world was still leaking and fixing and paying cash in envelopes. That steadied me. Around dusk, I pulled into my spot behind the shop and noticed the mailbox flag was up. I hadn't put it there. I opened the box and found an envelope with my name written in a neat, careful hand. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. "Frank, I'm sorry for showing up. I'm sorry for the calls. You don't owe us anything. Linda." No pitch, no threat, no promise either. Just a sentence that sat in my palm like a coin that might be real and might be chocolate. I folded it, set it in the drawer next to the sink, and told myself not to read it again. I slept that night, finally. Dreamed about water running through clean copper lines, about a house that didn't groan at the seams. When I woke up, I knew two things. The news was out for good, and if I wanted peace, I'd have to build it like I built everything else, with measurements, with tools, with a plan no one could talk me out of. And I knew the next knock wouldn't be the last. The calm didn't last long. By midweek, the gossip had turned into gasoline. Someone at the supply yard said I'd bought a house in Florida. Another swore I'd ordered a boat. Small-town lies grow faster than corn. I started feeling watched. The kind of itch between your shoulder blades you can't scratch. Trucks slowed when they passed my lot. Messages popped up from people I hadn't spoken to since dial-up. Every "hey buddy" felt like a hook with bait on it. Then, one Thursday night, I came home from a late call, old furnace, busted motor, and something felt off. The gate was half open. I never left it that way. Inside, the workshop light was on. I stepped in slow, heart drumming. There they were, Kyle and Linda, standing by my workbench like burglars who'd lost their courage halfway through the job. "What the hell are you doing in here?" Linda jumped. "Frank, please, we just wanted to talk." "You could have called." "You weren't answering," Kyle said, holding up his hands. "We knocked. The door was unlocked." "It wasn't unlocked this morning." He shrugged. "Guess you forgot." There was a metal trash can near his feet. Inside, a small fire burned, paper curling, embers licking the edge of something thick and laminated. My stomach dropped. It was my framed photo from the lottery office, the fake check, the one with my name on it. "What are you burning?" I asked, already knowing. Kyle smiled. "Just making sure you don't forget who lit the first spark." "You think that's funny?" Linda's eyes glistened. "He's angry, Frank. We're all angry. You froze everyone out. You broke into my shop. It's our family's legacy," Kyle snapped. "You're spitting on it." "No," I said, voice shaking now. "I'm protecting what's left of mine." The smoke bit my throat. I grabbed the small fire extinguisher by the sink and doused the flames. The hiss echoed like a fuse dying. Linda started to cry. "We just wanted you to do right." "I did right for 30 years, I said. I gestured around the room. "This is the first time I've done right for me." Then I called the cops. When the cruiser pulled in, red and blue washing over the walls, Kyle tried to look calm, like this was all a misunderstanding. The officer, young guy, nervous, asked, "Did they force entry?" "No," I said. "They used to have a key. I guess I forgot to change the locks after the divorce." Linda whispered, "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious," I said. The officer took notes, photographed the scorched frame, and asked if I wanted to press charges. I shook my head. "Not tonight. Just make a record." Kyle leaned close, voice low and sour. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but at least it'll be my regret." They left with the police, headlights sweeping across my lot like searchlights. When the quiet came back, it didn't feel peaceful. It felt hollow. Ray showed up 20 minutes later, didn't even knock. He looked around, saw the mess, saw the melted picture frame. "They really did this?" I nodded. He picked up a charred corner of foam board, squinted at it, then tossed it into the bin. "Hell of a family reunion." "Yeah." He took a long look at me. "You gonna move?" "Maybe." He nodded once. "Do it soon." That night, I sat in my truck for hours, engine off, phone dark, just listening to the wind whistle through the shop vents. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. By morning, I'd already called a locksmith, ordered cameras, and texted my lawyer. That was the day I stopped thinking of it as money and started thinking of it as protection. By Friday, my locks were changed, cameras installed, and every password I'd ever used got buried under new ones. My lawyer, a calm woman named Margaret Cole, didn't blink when I told her what happened. She'd seen it all before: inheritance wars, trust fund vultures, even cousins suing each other over used cars. She slid a folder across her desk. "You're not rich, Frank. You're vulnerable. People know you have something. That makes you a target." I nodded. "So what do I do?" "You build walls." So we did. New accounts, LLC registration, legal notices, the kind that make greedy people suddenly forget how to read. Every document notarized, every detail filed. Margaret handled it like a surgeon. Then came the cease and desist letters. One for Linda, one for Kyle. Plain envelopes, formal wording, delivered by courier. No more late-night calls, no more guilt trips. If they wanted contact, it would go through a judge. I moved into a small condo on the west side of Wichita, top floor, quiet. No one knew my name. Ray helped me pack, whistling through his teeth like it was just another weekend chore. We loaded the essentials: tools, old photographs, coffee pot. I left the shop keys on the counter. When I locked the door for the last time, it felt like sealing up a part of my life that had already died. The first night in the condo was strange. Clean air, no oil, no humming from the auto shop next door. Just silence. Real silence. The kind that scares you before it comforts you. I set up a small desk near the window and called it my office. Bills in one pile, letters in another. The money wasn't for show, it was survival. Margaret moved most of it into the LLC, set up firewalls even hackers would envy. "They'd have to kidnap you just to check your balance," she joked. "Good, let them try." A week later, my phone buzzed. Not the new one, the old number I'd kept muted for months. Against my better judgment, I checked the voicemail. It was Sarah. "Dad, I can't do it anymore," she said, voice tight and tired. "Every day it's something. Grandma saying you've lost your mind, Mom saying you're selfish. I'm done choosing sides. I just want peace." Then softer. "Can I stay with you for a while?" I didn't even hesitate. "Of course you can," I texted back. "Always." She showed up the next evening with 2 duffel bags and a face that looked older than her 24 years. We didn't talk much that night. Ordered pizza, ate on paper plates, watched a cooking show rerun we'd already seen. The quiet between us wasn't heavy, it was healing. After a few days, she started to smile again. She told me Grandma had said I was manipulating her with comfort and quiet. We both laughed so hard we cried. "Guess I'm guilty then," I said. "Comfort's all I got left to give." Sarah started helping around the condo, cleaning, cooking, even organizing my paperwork. She was good at it. One morning I came out of my room to find her sitting at the desk, sipping coffee and flipping through a stack of documents. "You really locked it all down, huh?" she said. "Had to. People see money and forget what love looks like." She nodded. "I'm glad you didn't forget." It was the first time in months that I felt something like peace. Weeks passed. The phone stayed quiet. No knocks at the door. No whispers from old friends pretending to check in. I kept working a few small plumbing jobs, just enough to stay busy. Ray and I started fixing up an old 1969 Ford F-100, something to keep our hands dirty. Life was simple again. For the first time in decades, I woke up without dread pressing on my chest. Then one morning, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. It was from Kyle. "Frank, you don't have to read this. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I lost everything. The business, the house, Linda. You were right about all of it. I don't want your money. I just want to talk someday. K." I read it twice. There was no manipulation, no hidden pitch, just exhaustion in ink form. I folded the letter, set it in the drawer beside my wrench set, and told myself I was done. But I wasn't. Because 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting in a diner off Highway 54, the same one I'd worked behind when this whole thing started. Kyle walked in, thinner, gray around the eyes, looking like life had finally caught up. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice soft. I almost didn't. "I know." He looked down. I deserved that. He told me about the bankruptcy, the repossessions, how Linda had left after the cease and desist papers came. He didn't ask for money, not once. Just kept talking, like a man emptying the last of what was left inside him. "I thought if I pushed you hard enough, you'd fold. You always did before." He gave a weak laugh. "Turns out you learned to say no. I guess I never did." For the first time in years, I believed him. Not fully, but enough. We sat there, drinking coffee until the waitress started stacking chairs. When I left, he said, "I hope you sleep good tonight." "I have been," I said. "You should try it." He smiled faintly. "Maybe someday." The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not from worry, just habit. made coffee, opened the balcony door, and watched the sky turn that pale orange that only happens when the world's still too tired to argue. It had been almost a year since that ticket changed everything. I wasn't richer. I was just free, and that was worth more than $1 million. Sarah got into medical school that fall, full scholarship. She said her essay was about resilience, about watching someone rebuild without bitterness. She never said my name, but I knew. She hugged me before she left, whispering, "You taught me peace isn't something you find, it's something you make." I didn't cry until after she drove away. Ray still came by on weekends. We finished the Ford, polished it, tuned it, even gave it a name, Second Wind. We'd drink cheap beer, laugh about the old days, and talk about how we were too old to start new wars. Sometimes we'd go fishing out at Cheney Lake. No talking, just the creak of the boat and the sound of wind on the water. That silence felt like wealth. I kept working, a few small jobs here and there, mostly to help folks who couldn't afford the big companies. I stopped charging the old veterans altogether. They'd try to slip me cash, and I'd tell them to donate it to the food pantry instead. That's when the idea started, a free plumbing course for vets. Ray and I found an old community hall that smelled like dust and coffee, and we started teaching twice a week. 10 guys showed up the first night. By the end of the month, there were 20. We didn't take a dime. Just stories, laughter, and the kind of gratitude that doesn't need to be spoken. One evening after class, I came home to find a small brown envelope in my mailbox. No name, no stamp, just my address written in neat cursive. Inside was a photo. Me, Sarah, and Ray, sitting by the truck smiling, grease on our hands. On the back, written in blue ink, "Family isn't who you owe. It's who stands with you when you're broke and still worth something." There was no signature, but I knew whose handwriting it was, Linda's. For a long time, I just stood there in the doorway, the evening sun spilling over the floor. I didn't feel angry or sad, just still. Maybe people do change, or maybe they just get tired of pretending not to. I put the photo on the shelf beside my wrench set and poured myself a glass of whiskey. Sat out on the balcony with Hank, my rescue dog who snored like thunder, and watched the streetlights blink on one by one. The world felt smaller, simpler. No phone buzzing, no demands, no ghosts left to chase. I looked at the old lottery check hanging in a new frame on the wall. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was a reminder that sometimes winning doesn't mean gaining. It means letting go. The night air was cool, the beer warm, and for the first time in years, I felt what I'd been chasing all along. Not luck, not justice, just peace. And when the crickets started up, I whispered to nobody in particular, "I finally did it, old man. I built something that can't be taken." Hank sighed and laid his head on my foot. The stars blinked awake, quiet and patient. And for once in my life, that was enough.